How you guys doing this evening? Welcome back to Third Thursday Live, and we are here reporting to you from Underhill Bonsai out of Folsom, Louisiana. We are Louisiana's premier bonsai nursery. I'm Evan Pardue. Today I've got special guest Nate Murray. I'm sure you guys seen him quite a few times now. He's one of our local Yamadori collectors and specializes in collecting bald cypress. Before I get too far into this cast, I just want to mention what we do, especially here at the nursery. I myself provide professional services as far as styling and also traveling and going to, and working on other people's trees with them. I also give one-on-one lessons. I do what we are doing here every month, so we give a monthly class like this, and I do workshops and provide workshop material for people to learn on and take home after the workshop is over. Sometimes we will have guest artists as we can come and do special things with us as well. The nursery here offers a wide array of different things you could ever need for doing bonsai. So we have everything you can need as far as pottery and wire and tools and fertilizer, and we make our own soil here. Our soil is top notch. It's professional grade soil that we make ourselves, and we're very proud of it. All the tree stock that we have here, we've either propagated ourselves or we have collected locally ourselves. And in this instance tonight, or this evening, we are working on a buttonwood that was collected by a very well-known person. We're going to get into that in just a moment here. But we will occasionally be able to get access to special specimen collected pieces or just stock that Louisiana doesn't have access to. We're trying to get more stocked up on those things. So since we're talking about natives mostly here, which is one of my first personal favorites, this is actually a southeastern native. And so this is buttonwood. Buttonwood is actually a tropical tree that is native to the Florida Keys. So down in the Keys, and then more tropical than that, even more down towards the equator, down into even South America.
Caribbean, yeah.
The Caribbean area. These guys are all over the beaches. So their preferred environment is on the beach, in the standing water most of the time, sometimes completely submerged in salt water. So they're highly resistant to salt water, highly resistant to salt breeze, like the high winds and breezes that would pack that eroding salt. And then, I mean, they're obviously a very tough plant because being in a tropical area like that where it's always 90 to 100 degrees during the middle of the year, and then the best winter they'll have is in the 70s and 60s maybe. And these are the trees that we're going to have for the southeast range here that give us what I would consider, and I've talked to Mike Lane about this recently, and Nate was there with me. We were on the trip. We were talking about true Yamadori and what really makes a piece truly a stunted, high quality, dwarfed tree that was dwarfed by nature. So these guys are a really great example of that. This deadwood feature, this is all completely true to this tree. It's not, this was not wood carved on here. This is not artificial in any way. This tree was found with this feature. So the feature actually extends from tip all the way through here. You can see it has a nice tight curve, and it goes all the way down the trunk into the soil line. So that's one characteristic of buttonwoods that is really popular.
Yeah, so the deadwood is actually created when the tree dies back, whether it was knocked over, whether it be, just burn off due to the extreme heat in addition to the salt water. I feel like, and that's something you and I have talked about, these are the Rocky Mountain junipers of the southeast.
Yes.
These are the true pieces of Yamadori that he touched on, that Evan touched on, that have natural deadwood, nothing that's been created by us. One of the things that Mike talked about, and it was really eye-opening for me, a field-grown tree, you might be able to get this girth in 7, 8,
and it's even shorter than that.
Possibly, yeah. But the density of this wood, because it's been stunted, that's the difference in what Mike was saying, was the density of true Yamadori, is how dense that wood is. And why many species are stunted in their growth. So it was really cool to listen to somebody from South Florida that's dealt with species that we're not familiar with, and that has done exceptionally well with designing trees and propagating cuttings and is around a lot of high quality trees.
Yeah. Mike's been exposed to his very fair share of buttonwood and other tropical species that we would not otherwise see here, just because these guys, they collect them like just south of the Everglades and into the Keys and stuff. And even, I mean, if you look at the range of buttonwood, Florida is literally where their range.
South Florida.
Yeah, South Florida, the very tip. Like if you look at the range of buttonwood, and another tree that I was really excited to get the other day was sea grape. If you look at their range, it's literally just the end of it, because you look where like central Mexico and South America and stuff, you see their range and everything's in there, and it comes up and you see North America and just the tip of Florida it's just south enough towards the equator for these trees to even be able to exist.
Right.
So this is like borderline, like we're super lucky that this species is successful as it is, just because I mean, they grow in Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico, we can get plants from there. But normally, importing trees that are considered exotic or may carry other bugs, pests and things, would be considered challenging to get over in different countries as far as distribution. So,
Well, all that being said, rest assured, we'll talk about some care guide, features to the species. So we've brought several back from South Florida that here in Louisiana, if you tend to them properly, I mean, we'll have strong, healthy trees hopefully for a long time to come, if we follow some very simple guidelines.
Basically, I know of buttonwood that have been taken care of as far as our range in Louisiana, all the way into like even Texas. I've heard of them over. People can have these over in the Northwest. They can be up in this, in the Northeast. I mean, I've heard of people with these trees in their collections, and for those people who are out there and live in those ranges, probably already know kind of the gist of these trees. So, just because they're tropical doesn't mean that you can't have them in your collection. There are a few key things about them that we should know in order to maintain health and encourage vigor in the species. And if we get those things right, these trees are super tough. I mean, it's got a very leathery leaf. The branches they're not especially brittle. They're actually very flexible. They're very easy to manipulate. Like I'm bending this branch and it doesn't just pop off of there. Like something.
The leaves, in addition, the leaves are easily reduced.
Yeah.
They can be cut, trimmed, a variety of methods that we were exposed to with that. Now, two main things that I'm sure every practitioner can possibly provide: water and sunlight.
Yeah, that's the starting point. Buttonwoods grow in the water. They live in the water. Sometimes it's like bald cypress. This species and bald cypress for me and Nate will be very, very easy to relate to. As long as we keep this guy super wet. I mean, I've seen people even take these trees and take a tub of water just like we do with the cypress trees and put them in it.
Yeah.
And just leave them in there all year.
Yeah.
If they fear they can't water it enough. It's a heavy drinker. It loves to drink water just like cypress. And it loves the full sun just like cypress. And I mean, being its chosen environment to get away from other competition from other plants. It's just in that scorching hot sun. But one thing that Mike had mentioned to us is that we're taking this tree out of that really harsh environment that it's struggling to be like the alpha, like growing plant in that environment, and we're giving it a better life than it had experienced before. So we can keep it in the full sun, but we don't have to have it in blasting full sun all day. We can still get away with like 7-8 hours, spraying. If it gets super hot and we don't want the tree to dry out, the tree's going to slow down in the summertime, so it doesn't have to be that insane. Like we can still shade this tree the better half of the day, like in the evening when it's still kind of like after the ground and everything's been warmed up significantly. We can still get some afternoon shade on these trees. So something else to know is that being in the nature that this is a tropical plant, you have to keep these trees warm. Keeping them warm is key to their health. Not just the water, not just the sunlight, like Nate was saying, like as being bonsai practitioners, sunlight and water, obviously. Outside, obviously. Tropical nature, they are going to be on that sensitive, very tender side of the spectrum. 40 degrees is going to be their most unhappy temperature. they will experience. And under 40 degrees, they will start to diminish in health. A hard freeze will completely just kill them straight up. So we have to keep them. I was talking to Doug earlier. Doug's got a couple that he's been keeping for a little while, and he keeps his greenhouse above 45 degrees. Honestly, if you could keep your greenhouse above 60 to 70 degrees, better. Like, we need to keep these guys at optimum warm all year, every year. And for some, that might be challenging. But Louisiana, if we think about our range too, sometimes Christmas we're wearing shorts. You know, some Christmas, I remember like December 24th, it was like 3 years ago, it was 80 degrees outside. And then other years it'll be 40, you know. So,
But the scary thing is, there can be a 2-3 day turnaround where it can be 80 and it can be, 35. So you definitely need to have a plan of action as it relates to your care for this tree. One of the things, as you spoke of the nursery and you spoke of all the things that we offer here, you guys are up and coming with a greenhouse.
yeah,
That was one of the things I think you skimmed over.
I've mentioned it quite a few times.
I know where my buttonwood's going to go in the winter.
Yep.
So,
And so if anyone comes by the nursery, because I've told quite a few of you guys in the past, hey, I'm going to Florida, pick up some sweet pieces. And it's going to pertain to a lot of the species that we did pick up from our Florida trip. And I mean, if somebody needs some overwintering care, we're going to have a portion of our greenhouse for overwintering people's tropicals for the winter. And the fee is going to be super cheap. I mean, typically it's $1 a day. It's $1 per tree. I mean, if we had to keep the trees in the greenhouse for 2 months, I mean,
right.
I feel like it's worth it, especially if you invest in a big tree like
Without a
this.
doubt, yeah.
Then yeah. But we did pick up smaller ones that would be more manageable. This one was on the bigger side, and we picked it up because, I mean, I could not leave with this tree.
Well, I want to touch on that because Doug already has a few buttonwoods. And what about this tree, Evan, stood out to you to say, I got to call Doug. He has to see this tree. I think he's going to love it.
Well, this one was actually kind of secret a little bit because I showed Doug another tree that was a really wonderful cascading piece that Mary Madison was not willing to part ways with. So then I said, you know what, Doug? I got a tree in mind that I want to get for you, and it's like the nursery's tree and for Doug, and so we'll display it and use it for those reasons. But this one attracted me because I saw all the buttonwoods out there, and Mary Madison has all of her trees kind of like in this little nursery area, and she's got like this wagon of trees that they had brought to the recent Bonsai Society's Florida show, like I think it's the BCS show. I guess you can. I might
Central Florida or BSF, South Florida.
Yeah, it was something like that. She had brought this one with her, and I saw all these trees out there, and I was like, okay, cool, you know. And I was looking for a little bit more of a bigger show kind of quality tree, and this was sticking up above the whole rest of it. And what I really love about this tree is it is a literati form style tree, and I love literatis, and that's kind of something I love to play around with. But the fact that the deadwood starts at the base and it comes around and it kind of comes up and then it kind of starts twisting like this up the actual base of the tree, that was number one. And having a beautiful shari like
Zoom
this,
into that, Doug?
yeah, he's coming in on it. Having a beautiful shari like that is really something that we were talking about earlier. This is our Rocky Mountain juniper of the tropics. That's in bonsai, this screams ancient. This has a really, really nice contrast.
The graininess of the wood itself.
Yes, the grain is actually really nicely raised, and that tells us that the grain is very nicely packed and it's very, very tight. That's a really good thing, and you can see it. I mean, with little work here, and we'll kind of get that zoom in there. With very little work of cleaning this up, you can see the veins and the cracks and the fissures and the bumps on this wood. I mean, there was several branches here at one point, and they all died off, and the wood, it naturally shed the live vein off of here. Even like right above here, you can kind of see here, they're very brittle and dead. There's even low-hanging branches right here that are still the remnants of dying off. And so the tree was everything's kind of in this zone up here in the top. And this right here, I'm going to be able to play around with this a lot. There's a lot of little fine branches we can get some wire on and start moving around. And then we got this one piece that kind of comes up here. And I really like it whenever there's an obvious piece here and I'm like, here's the tree. You know, like a lot of this stuff is really great. And I'm sure I'm going to be able to use some of these branches in our design. But the fact that we have a very flexible piece that's up here, up high, and it's very skinny and it follows this deadwood means we're going to be able to frame and show off this deadwood piece up here at the top. And this is the creme de creme of like deadwood feature right here. This is something that a lot of like when you see junipers and you see like a lot of the stuff in Japan right now, like especially the junipers that are field grown, want this look. This is 100% Yamadori, true to the nature of this tree, and it twirls around beautifully. And I repotted this tree at an angle where you could see through here just a little bit, but the taper in this deadwood from here to here, it's very fine and it's very gradual, and it actually tapers all the way to the top. It's chef's kiss. That's all I have to say. It's absolutely stunning. It's a beautiful piece of deadwood. It's on a very nice trunk base, and even though it's not what some people would see when it comes to bonsai. We think of some people prefer in more traditional style bonsai. They like to see a fat flaring nabari on a tree, whereas this tree, yes, it doesn't have a lot to talk about as far as its nabari, but there is an exceptional amount of muscling and movement and nice things going on here. It does appear straight on the camera here, and the back black drop kind of diminishes some of that. But if we turn it slightly, you can start to see the tree has these little bits of movement throughout it. And literati are normally viewed and displayed in a round pot because they're really a 360 tree. Three-dimensionally, this tree is going to be special all the way up. And if you see it goes back and forth, in and out, very slightly. And then it comes up here, and it's starting to suggest the line of the tree. Once it hits right here, then the magic happens. I mean, I love the story this tree tells. It's very dramatic, and I think it's going to make a wonderful piece.
There were several, and I challenge any of you who are listening, I challenge you to go and Google Miss Mary Madison and look up her story, look at how she, not only how she got into bonsai, but when she got in, some of the people that she's rubbed shoulders with in the bonsai world.
Yeah, she's seen it all.
Right. There were some really massive, beautiful, but massive pieces of Yamadori buttonwood that she's collected. Definitely different than this piece. This piece is very feminine, very elegant, doesn't have the gaudy, former root system, and now it's exposed and it's dead wood. Like you said, the taper here, it's
spot on.
Yeah.
And
what are your thoughts on making this even lighter? Because I know some people get lime sulfur happy. So
this is kind of where I like it to be. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to lead me into, if you're fortunate enough to get down to Florida, so you go to the Buttonwood Queen's house and you get to pick through her premium stock of collected trees that she pulled herself. And by the way, guys, Mary Madison's been pulling buttonwood for like over 50 years now, so she knows what she's doing. So you get a premium stock of material like this, and usually when you get them, they're going to look, the deadwood's not going to be as nice and as brilliant looking as this. And I have a tree right here that I recently went through and I cleaned it up. I actually cleaned it up right before we started recording here. And this is a smaller buttonwood that we picked up. It's going to be another literati form. You can see literati is going to be kind of a common theme with buttonwood, because buttonwood, we can get chunky show-in and we can get big, flashy driftwood style trees and stuff like that with bigger bases, but I went with a few smaller ones like this because they're going to be very conceptually, like, not easy, but they can make really great trees.
A lot of options. Maybe not easy, but a lot of options.
Yeah, you can play around with the branching on these trees very easily. So you can see this tree has about the same kind of feel to it, and the deadwood starts down here and it comes up here, and it kind of feels like this tree, but it's the deadwood quality is not nearly as intense. And so this is from a light brushing. So when I got these trees, I mean, they don't come out the prettiest. So I brushed the deadwood and I cleaned it up, and this is wire brush with Dawn soap distilled distilled, dissolved in, like mixed with water. So about like just a little squirt of Dawn soap just to get it nice and soapy. Hit the wood and really get that grain exposed. And so went in there and cleaned it up really nice, and then just sprayed it down with water, regular water. I have a fabric gun that's like a little pressure washer thing that makes the job a lot more effective and quicker. And so I cleaned that up, and that's the color. You can see it's very close to the wood here.
It's a really good contrast, real corky bark, flaky, with the dead wood itself.
Yeah, and that's another thing to note is that this dead wood is kind of like this lighter color here. Whereas when we get the zoom in here, you can see that that the actual bark itself, it's what we want in bonsai. We want that craggy, looks like it has like a nice kind of, not plated bark, but it's got an older appearance to it. And it's a really amazing contrast to the dead wood on these trees. And this leaf right here, there's a little twig of growth coming out right there. It's a stunted piece of growth. That's how small the leaves can be. And that goes for this size tree all the way up to the big one that we're standing next to. So these guys are fully capable of getting really heavily shrubby, bushy with tiny leaves. And if you get a really, really nice buttonwood and a really, really nice juniper with exquisite deadwood qualities on both pieces, and you stepped away a good distance, I guarantee you would be like, you could get the same quality, very nice awe effect out of both pieces.
I agree.
So. But yeah, in order to bring it to this kind of whitish grayish color here that I've got, I used lime sulfur. So we painted on here, and even better, it comes out yellow. So it starts out yellow, and then as it dries, it protects our wood and preserves our dead wood, and also in turn starts bleaching it white. And so I had a conversation with another bonsai guy in Florida, and he was talking about how he likes to get it scrubbed down real tight, nice and close to the grain, and then lime sulfur several layers. I prefer a little bit more of a natural look. This feels more natural because right here, this portion of it, just give you guys some kind of a feel of what it is as far as the way the deadwood looks. Right here, this is where the leaves are. This is where the foliage mass is. Under here, there was it was dark under here because it was kind of mildewy. There was a lot of moisture trapped under here. There was not a lot of sunlight. Up here, it naturally looked like this. This was natural sun bleaching that this tree has had on it since collection. So I put a little bit of lime sulfur up here, but not a whole lot. And this is what it looked like. And you can see at the end here, it's just a little dark. It's got a little bit of a dark texture to it. And that's what I like it to look like. I want to preserve like living natural history. Like I want to preserve the actual story of this tree. So I don't want to overly do that too.
So in your application of lime sulfur, you cut it with water, yes?
I will go straight lime sulfur if I'm trying to, like this down here, you can kind of still see under here. I need another application right here.
But you're not doing multiple strict lime sulfur applications?
No, I'll dilute it a little bit. So yeah, I like where this tree is at. So if you guys want to clean your deadwood on your buttonwoods, if you have them or you're planning on getting one after seeing this, wire brush and Dawn soap on the deadwood, toothbrush on the bark because of how soft and flaky it is. And in the future, as you water your buttonwood, try to water this. Don't water this. You can blast this with water every once in a while to kind of freshen it up and kind of, maybe knock off any pests that might be under it. But try to keep your moisture and your watering and everything, like your routine of watering your trees, especially on a deadwood featured tree. This deadwood is very similar to like a bald cypress. It's an immortal wood, kind of say. It doesn't rot very easy. It's rot resistant in some cases. But the more water you get on it, the more erosion will happen to it. It'll get gunky. And if you get a lot of water and a lot of mildew build up down here on your flaky bark that gives it this amazing texture, it'll peel it off. And we don't want a vanilla looking trunk with all these crazy exotic deadwood features going on. So, but before I get into styling this with Nate, I want to make one more fine point. Something that's not talked about a lot with care of buttonwood is a common pest that has been more globalized. It's been introduced everywhere, unfortunately. It is a pest that is called chili thrip, and it is, I mean, it's obviously a type of thrip, but it's similar as into mite. It's almost like a spider mite. In a way, it's microscopic, we can't see it, but we can, on our trees, on our buttonwoods, we can definitely see the damage and the ill effects of it. So what happens is, anytime there's new growth, and this tree doesn't have anything going on with it right now, this little bit of spotting on it is just a little bit of blight that it probably got from being out in the sun a whole lot. But when you see on buttonwood, when the leaves come out and they're distorted slightly looking, and then they have destroyed veining and flaky kind of veining, this one actually has a little bit on it right here. That's the sign of the common chili thrip that affects these trees. So in order to combat the chili thrip, well, we need, what was the active ingredient called, Doug? Okay, so you can find it in a chemical insecticide called Advid. And then what's the active ingredient? Because you can find it outside of just having that product. Because you can buy Advid, and it's going to be like a concentrate. It's going to be a little more expensive because it's nursery grade.
You can get it on Amazon.
But you can buy it on Amazon. So look up the active ingredient of that. Yeah, it's a miticide insecticide. It is going to be the best course of action to tackle the chili thrip on this tree.
It's definitely not malathion.
No, malathion. That's the other one. Do not use malathion on this tree. You will kill them. Okay, so Doug said if you Google Advid, AVAD, AVID, I'm sorry, AVID on Google, then you'll find the active ingredients and similar products to it. And you can buy it on Amazon very, very easily. So basically, if we control the thrips, and we get the sun, and we get the water, and we know it's a cold, tender tree, then we can keep these guys very healthy. So that was one statement I needed to say, especially about the malathion. I know malathion is kind of like this whole thing where, I'm going to be honest with you, malathion is like an atomic bomb. It's very strong. It's very excessive. I'd only suggest using insecticides, miticides, and fungicides and stuff that are going to be more mild, won't mess with our pollinators too heavily, and we'll make sure we're treating our trees. When you do malathion, that stuff is, you can smell it in the air, and it's going to, for buttonwoods, it's a known thing, especially in South Florida, that it just straight up kills these guys. Oh yeah, for application of Advid, if you want to treat, if you're starting to see signs of distortion and damaged leaves, then you want to go in and apply it every week, because just like a spider mite, the chili thrip has a cycle. So if they're heavily infestation in your tree, then they're going to lay eggs, and then they're going to do their whole thing, and you'll knock them out with that first shot. But the eggs are going to be resistant to the Advid, and so when the babies pop out within that next week, then you hit it again, and then just for reassurance, hit it a third time, like 3 times within that month.
And spraying the foliage.
Spray the foliage.
Yes.
And then after that, if your tree, even if your tree's healthy, as a precaution, because it's global, it's been, I mean, these chili thrips have just been introduced everywhere in the world. You can't get away from them. You should be applying your Advid every single month. You know, get yourself on a schedule, apply it every month, spray it in your greenhouse. You know, get it going in your greenhouse. Make sure you don't make sure you quarantine your buttonwoods that you get from another sources you're not sure of, and spray them. Do that. I would do the whole treatment, like spray them twice. You know, do a 1 week and then 2 week spray. Keep them away from your other buttonwoods, and then you can introduce them back into your specimen garden or species that you want. And Advid is a really great product too, because it knocks out spider mites, and spider mites really affect our junipers and some other tender leaf plants. Like junipers can really fall victim to spider mites, and sometimes some will assume that it's overwatering with some junipers when the foliage starts turning brown, especially on the very tips. When you get like a new sprig of growth and it just comes out that discolored color, that's usually spider mites. And also our bald cypresses can get spider mites, and they'll get that same look. Mm-hmm. You'll have that leaf come out, and the brown the tip just suddenly turns brown and just curls up. Mm-hmm. Spider mites are eating the crap out of those things.
Not insects, they're spiders.
And mites are not insects.
That's why insecticides.
They're spiders And so insecticide is suited for common insect pests. Miticide is a whole separate thing. Mites are microscopic. They're little spider insects that literally like just bore into the soft tissue of new growth, make their day, have a field day in your trees, and eat them literally, eat the growth from the inside out. And if your tree's not producing more photosynthetic material to recover from damage, it will never recover and it will slowly decline in health. And you can, yeah, don't get out your magnifying glass and think that you're going to find spider mites. They're extremely small. Basically, what I'm doing here is I'm getting this portion here that I said this is the tree, and it is a long running piece. Let me kind of spin it around so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. So on the back here, there's this branch that kind of runs up, and I'm going to make this the line of where the dead wood is interrupted by this. And so what I'm doing is I'm slowly kind of flexing it, and I'm listening for fissures and cracks, because last thing I want to do is break this branch off of here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of get it down and underneath this dead wood, because I want this right here to be right here, because I want to encompass this dead wood with green, with live. So like I was saying earlier, as naturally as humans, we are gravitated towards live, towards the green on plants. So if we see this, when we're like, oh, it's alive, then we see this, and we're like, oh man, this is old, this is twisted, this is ancient. And so if I can encompass this feature with green, then it can tell a much more eluding story for us. People will be more keen to look at the tree and be like, oh, that's special, you know? And so,
keeps your eye.
And it keeps your eye going. It helps you guide up through the tree, and the green is really going to give us a frame. And so I'm bringing this around, and I think this is a little long, so I'm going to actually do away with this branch and rely on the green of this. So originally this branch was kind of up in this zone, and so now I've just brought it down here, and honestly, in the future, I'm not going to leave this long. I'm going to kind of tone that down a little bit, but I'm going to come up here, and I'm actually going to drop this branch down underneath the dead wood and kind of frame it in some more. And then this is going to be the top of my tree right here. So that means that everything else over here, if you wouldn't mind, Nate, come in here and start getting some wire, just simple wire on the main parts of these branches. So yeah, you should. And I've got a little bit smaller if you need it. And then I'm going to start wiring out some of this stuff over here, notably to get this piece and this piece established as like. So in literati form, it's a little hard to explain how to execute a good literati. And really, the definition of literati, ooh, I almost cut it with the wrong pair. Also, a learning lesson is have the proper tool. I almost cut that with my concave cutter. So literati, in definition, means design of the scholars, like, oh, down here, all this stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Design of the scholarly approach, a avant-garde style of an educated man. It's kind of what literati means, and I know we're not all super, I mean, Nate's a coach over here and a teacher, so I mean, he's an educator, but I mean, you don't have to be extremely, you don't have to be educated and high IQ to create literati. Another part of it is just understanding aesthetics, really. It's understanding line, because most literati trees are based off the line of the tree, not so much. I'm having a hard time getting this wire right where I need it to be.
I don't know.
I'm not going to cross that on stream. And so I'm going to have to go around one bend. And so literati is going to be learning how to manipulate the line of the tree to your benefit. And so if the highlight and the feature of this tree is this very exaggerated dead wood, I just need to figure out what is the best application of wire to move these branches into the positions where the dead wood is the showcase and the tree is complementing itself. So and the best way to approach this kind of literati thought is look at how the line of the tree moves. So what I'm talking about by line is literally from the nabari up the takagari, which just is going to be just the part of the tree that's in between the first branch and the nabari, and then all the way up into the apex of the tree. And so with literati, normally there's not a lot of green on a tree, and that shows that the tree is in a very adverse environment. It's going to be a tree that's like it's signaling like it's the last of its kind in this environment. Like it can suggest that the struggle was so real that it eradicated other trees around it, and it's kind of like the remnant of a harsh environment kind of feel to it. So that's kind of like what we're looking at, like the outskirts design of literati. And so we have to think about the line. The line on this tree is very long, and then it has this graceful curving through it, but at the very top it bolts, and it kind of does this whole crazy twist, very beautiful thing. So the branches should reflect that. They should be longer, and they should tell of a elongated line like this. But there should be an occasional branch that has this weird turn, because the environment that it was in suggests that something, maybe high winds, or maybe a storm, or something plowed it over, and I have a break right there. Then that's the signal to stop on that bend. I'll talk about breaking buttonwoods in just a second, because it's actually not a bad thing. But anyway, so yeah, I need to make the suggestion of the environment and also that internal thought of being like a self-reflection, like thinking introspectively about oneself is kind of another thing with literati. It's like, if this tree was me, how would it affect me? Kind of mentality. It's kind of a weird, you have to get inside the thought process of how that happens. So yeah, like these branches, I'm allowing, like this section right here, I'm coming down and I'm going to stand these up and really bring this around. Now, I mentioned just a second ago that there was a snap, and that is perfectly okay. In nature of these trees, of their habit, this didn't happen without some breakage or some kind of damage. And very similarly to our bald cypress, they are very flexible and capable of taking that type of damage. So if I break a branch, I stop. I see the little crack. As long as the other side of that wood is not damaged, I can back off that bend and let it heal. What I'm going to do if I see any breaks like that, I'm going to go in with my cut paste, and I'm going to put it in there just to prevent any more exposure from moisture loss or from bugs getting down into it. So if I ever hear a break and I didn't get the branch exactly where I wanted it, then I stop. But I look and I observe and see if it broke all the way through, because some people will style a tree, and some practitioners will be extremely discouraged when they hear that break, and they'll go, "Oh, it's over," and they cut it off. But I learned this whole thing from wiring boxwoods, Japanese boxwood, boxus. I've broken a lot of boxus branches, but I've also observed the way that boxwood rebounds from that. And I started applying it to other evergreen plants like this. There's always energy, and the scarring and stuff is not going to be as apparent on this, because there's always energy moving in here, and it will heal a lot faster than from that type of damage. So I've come to accept that every once in a while we will break a branch. I mean, it's just the name of the game. And bending living material, tissue, thin trees that might have some weaker tissue. Right now is the time to work on tropicals, because they are growing really fast right now. They're going to be vigorous. They're going to be able to withstand damage of trimming or bending of branches and breakage and all kinds of things. So it's a good time to work on our tropicals. Have a tropical or two in your collection so you can get that experience of repotting in the summertime. And also, here's the best part: if you've got a deciduous tree, if you've got a tropical tree, and you've got an evergreen tree, guess what? You get to repot in the early spring, you get to repot in the summer, and you get to repot in the fall. Boom, you get to work all year. Isn't that great? I mean, that's kind of what I do at this moment in my life. But I like to be able to do work all year round, so having a diverse collection really, really helps out. So I'm building out pads, tight little, nice little pads. Here's the top of my tree. I'm bending it back towards the viewer, and I'm going to give it a little bit of contortion by twisting the wire and bringing it up into this area here. I've got a couple other branches that I can get in there and kind of manipulate them a little bit. But being that this is buttonwood, and it's kind of difficult to see at the moment with these other branches in the way. But this is buttonwood, so anything that I wire out here, it's going to fill in. It's going to pad in really nicely. It's going to back bud. We got these flowers on here right now. And for the sake of taking the energy away from the flowers, we're going to remove the flowers. So these are the flowers on buttonwood. So it kind of reminds me of like how a crepe myrtle it extends out into like almost a plume kind of looking thing. But the flowers are not really they're not beautiful. They're not showy flowers. There's these little puffy balls with like yellow on the ends of them. Now for some people who I really do enjoy minute flowering habits, boxwoods do the same thing. In fact, these trees remind me of how boxwoods react to certain things very, very easily, like a broadleaf evergreen type plant. And their flowers are very small and very minute. It's a little white puffy flower that comes in. It's in between all the shoots. And if you execute the design correctly, the flowers that were at one time considered not to be showy could actually be better in a smaller scale if you get up close. And I'm all about trees that if I see this tree if I look at it close and there's things that I keep finding in it, it's an extra treat. That's what makes a quality piece to me as well. So, but yeah, I removed the flowers off of here. I don't want them to go very far into committing too much energy to the flowers. And I would also, if you were to want to get leaf reduction on this tree, you would also go in and cut the leaves in half. Considering we just obtained this tree from Mary, and I put it in this pot, I basically slip potted this tree into this container. I did not mess with the roots. I combed out the bottom portion of the roots to get it into a shallower pot. But then in turn, I took my bonsai soil mix and I worked it into that root ball very gently so that we can gradually replace that field soil with high quality bonsai soil. And so in about 2 years, once this tree gets optimum health and it fills this container with roots, then I can go in and I can start bringing the depth shallower in this container, and I can get it into that big oval or round that I'm seeing it in. And I'm probably going to see this in oval would be fine. Round, if we're going to do literati. So
there is danger in collecting and trying to quickly bare roots.
So this tree, I believe, they were telling me it's been out of the ground for 2 years.
Okay.
And it looks pretty good for a 2-year collected tree. And I was talking to Doug earlier, and I was like, that I don't like to touch trees until they've been out of the ground for 2 years. 1 year is my minimum on strong species like elm trees and stuff. Sometimes if your bald cypress is doing exceptionally well, that's fine. But I usually do not like to touch collected stock until it has been out of the ground for 2 years and you're seeing very good signs of vigor. Very, very bushy growth habit has returned to the tree. So with these buttonwoods, since they were collected, I also like what I've heard from someone else. If you're not familiar with the species and you know that you're going to be doing some work to it, take your time and treat the bonsai like glass. I was told that, and I was like, that's a good way to look at it. Because yes, at any moment, this tree could shut down and I could shatter its existence completely on accident from overworking it. That's one thing we don't want to do, is we don't want to overwork a collected specimen, especially when it holds merit and holds the provenance of this tree is going to be very important. Being a Mary Madison tree, being that she collected it, we like to take our time with these type of things because we're not going to find this. I mean, she found this, and it's very hard to find this quality of material.
Well, one of the things that Mike Lane was saying that rather than collecting, at this point it's it's buying trees that have been collected previously and been worked on. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you remember that conversation with him, that point he was making?
About how all collected trees are eventually going to go away.
Right.
That's a sad way to look at it, but yes, if we over-collect, then yes, we will lose all the really premium collected Yamadori, because Japan's done that to themselves, where they've run out and they've collected all the really, really nice trees, and you know that is another thing too, is like collected trees that have provenance and have age, and you know we should definitely preserve these trees.
Right.
And so going overboard with these trees in collection is definitely going to affect them, and not in just in the quality of the species, but also for the future generations. We want to leave some of those trees intact and encourage more people to preserve and keep these trees alive. So I'm going to go in and just remove the rest of the flowers really quick. Good point. Doug said if it's not special, don't collect it. So like, if you're going out to collect for quantity over quality, you're collecting for the wrong reason. You need to go out there, you need to find the stuff that's got true quality to it, and young stuff is not bad. Older stuff that's struggling is okay, and of course, we talk about this in our Yamadori lecture, have permission, of course, to collect those trees. Let's see what you got. Okay. So basically, when you're done applying that, I'm going to see what I can bend over there, because I've got the top of the tree on lock, I think. I'm just going to remove a few things I know I'm not going to use in my design. And then I'm going to leave a few things that I know that I'm going to need to grow out. Like I would like, oh yeah, there's a nice, really nice little branch right there. Let me grab that branch real quick. And then we'll kind of get into where Nate's at, where he's been applying wire. And I'm going to bend some branches over there. So if you don't mind, I'm going to get over here and looking at the design of the tree. Ooh, yeah, watch that.
Yeah.
This right here is in a bad spot, and there's a piece of deadwood quality right here that I would like to show. So I'm actually going to go ahead and remove this. Get that out of there. Start getting some noise out of there, and then I think you did a lot of wiring over here, but I might have to remove this whole piece, because this is heavy. This is going to be literati one day. So
do you look to pull anything forward?
let me experiment first.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't want to remove all the stuff that we have down here, because of the health of the tree too. We still want to maintain health. We still want to keep as much green as possible, but we want to move towards the design. So we're going to have to remove a few things.
One of the things Miss Mary did say was you can remove just that terminal bud to hopefully promote some back budding if you don't have a branch coming from where you want.
Yeah, you got to push, 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 push. You got to push back constantly on these trees. I'm thinking about reducing this foliage mass here just a good bit, because I want the concentration to be more up here. But I want to see if I can use this branch. So I'm going to cut a bigger piece of wire. And Doug's saying off camera, he's like thinking that maybe we can take something down lower here and contort something to reflect the top, kind of like how it pulls from this side and pulls that way. And I think that's going to be in this branch right here. We might be able to do something like that. And it's got some pieces of dried up wood that we can't use.
Yeah.
So the deadwood on this tree kind of just develops over time, and sometimes you'll get really small stuff. Like there's this stuff hanging down here that's got it's almost not even necessary.
Wow.
Yeah. So as I pull this back, we're starting to see more of this, which this is another beautiful piece of deadwood here. Oh man, I want this branch. Yeah, this branch bifurcates in a very nice spot. Did it. Did it. We did it, boys. All right, just got to get this branch to come around and not be fussy for me. And I was going against the way it bends. So I was going on a branch that kind of had a little bit of a bow in it like that, and I wanted to bend it like this. And it was just like, and I was like just really believing in the tree for a second there. I've been to Weigert's 3 times in South Florida and have hung around that area. It's a very, very beautiful area. And really the point of it going this time was to go see Mary Madison and go be exposed to that. I know that this is so heavy and so big, and it's got a lot of ice wiring on it, but you know what? Before I go too fast, let's try this. Let's get rid of that and this. Just cut this off and kind of get rid of some of that weight and hold on to this branch, because I want it to feel flowy right here. So just reduce that a little bit. Oh yeah, okay, I'm glad I didn't cut the whole thing off.
I agree.
And then we got this branch right here, which is nice. Kind of tucks perfectly down into this corner. We got some promise of new buds in here. It's kind of sandwiched in there between the wire, unfortunately, but I can fix that later on after the stream. And we've got buds down below too. We got a couple of suggestions of buds down here, but I don't really want buds down there, so I'm gonna leave them on for the health of the tree now, but when they extend out, I can always remove them later. My biggest concern right now is this, and I think this is not necessary, this whole portion. There's not that many leaves on here, so what I'll start by doing is removing sections of leaves just so I can see. I definitely don't want to be that far out. This actually might be okay. I actually kind of like that where it is, but I'm not really fond of where this is at. This kind of feels good. Now this stuff down here, I'm going to have to do away with this whole thing because it's distracting. And so, there we go. So now I'm just going to go ahead and just remove this down to a nub. And there's actually green on this one here. Oh yeah, because I was parting ways with that branch. Okay. So now I'm starting to feel better. So now like this kind of dangly old twisted wood here, I'm starting to be able to see it a little bit more. And as my reflection of this very sharp angle up here, I'm actually starting to see that in the future I'm going to have to build out something that comes down just a little further. Let's see. Unfortunately, this was wired in a way where I can't get that far down. But this is going to counterbalance that really sharpness up, that sharp point up there. So I'm going to gradually bring everything down here. And then this kind of shoots back across, and I don't think I like that anymore. Get out of there. There we go. Let me step back and look at it. Oh yeah, that's fine.
That is.
That's coming out real fine. Now this kind of crosses into a no-no zone, but I want to build like this little piece here. I want to build like here's the first crown of the tree, and then I want there to be a subset level of that crown. So I'm going to actually leave this right here, and so this is going to be outskirting of that. There's going to be more build out here, but since this is literati, I'm going to keep true to the form that there's going to be a limited amount of green on this tree, but as we reduce the leaf size on this tree and we get tighter internodes and more robustness to the foliage mass here, then we can really start to make it feel like less is more. But the health of the tree will be more optimal because we'll have a big pad here, we'll have a nice filled in pad here, and some pads filled in here, and we'll have that flow down, and then we'll have that zoom out. So now we've really kept everything nice and tight. We have a focus on the deadwood in the line of this tree, and we can see this a lot easier if we pick up on this. And so this green down here, I will have to grow some more shoots and come down a little further, just a little bit, just into this zone here. And these twisty old craggy branches, I actually kind of like them at the moment. I'm going to leave them on. I know they may or may not fall away in time, but I think they're interesting. I think it tells the transition very well. Obviously the tree can't go this way. Maybe the water's risen up and it's completely drowning the tree. And I mean, it's slowly being eroded away. And then this is the top of the tree where the sun's bleached it out completely and killed it back. This is in training. We're not doing anything crazy here. I'm not going to go ahead and do like a full-on leaf reduction. I'm not going to cut my leaves in half. I'm not going to, like deadhead the shoots on this tree and, bring everything nice and tight back. I'm not going to do all that craziness. I'm not going to wire every single little tiny shoot. For right now, my goal is to have the bonsai, have the structure set, have my bones nice and solid, and really, really build this tree moving forward off of this powerful line. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but this makes me feel like this tree is riding a lightning strike. Like it looks like someone grabbing onto a lot of energy, and it's shooting out of control.
Zeus.
Yeah, like Zeus throwing a lightning bolt. Yeah, that's awesome. It just feels like it's harnessing like some kind of energy. So I love the flow of this tree, and like I said, I love literati style trees. So this one really, really speaks to me. And I remember when we were styling trees with Mary that day, and she was talking about the way she likes to see buttonwood represent. And we were walking around her specimen garden, and I was observing her style, I would say. Her style is very simple, because she is more. Well, hold on a second. I want to make sure that this is secure, and I'm gonna have to clean some of this up. Some of this wire is not necessary anymore. But her style is very simple. It's very concise. What she's trying to say with her collected pieces it's very simple. She usually, like I hear a lot of other bonsai practitioners say this. Sometimes they say, let the tree speak for itself. And Miss Mary was very, very much in that mentality where she would observe what the tree has to offer and then make that better, encompass that. Use what exists. We're not doing crazy stuff with the Yamadori. We shouldn't be doing, our aim isn't to graft on a bunch of branches. And because we don't have a branch right here, well, we would put one there. But, maybe, like what if we wanted a branch right here? That's not what preserving Yamadori is. Preserving Yamadori is working with what the tree has, because obviously those were the most important parts of that tree in the time that we found it. And so we're going to preserve that, freeze frame this time in which the tree is telling us that it is existing, and we're going to just enhance this view. And this view is gorgeous. This is a North American native, and you guys know I love North American native trees. And these guys are coming up more and more. I know that other practitioners are starting to approach this species and I know that there's been a kick in as far as our bald cypress is kind of coming up too. And I know bald cypress is very popular. I would love to see this species come to the forefront as well. They're very fun, very awesome trees to work with. So.
These are trees that just naturally catch your eye. They might not be the easiest to acclimate to and learn how to work on. There's some simple things, but they're different than some natives that we're used to. But without a doubt, these are the eye catchers. This is the eye candy that's going to be in your gardens.
Yeah. If you get a good area in your garden, you get a good display stand area set up, this is going to be a gorgeous piece. Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Without a doubt.
I love the way this tree came out. I probably will ask that Doug allow us to keep it here for a little while. I would love to, just so after the stream's over and people come to visit and pick up their buttonwood, that they can see this tree in person. It's very gorgeous. Now with this tree, I'm actually going to move it into the back. I'm going to shade it a little bit, give it some time to itself. Basically, from the little bit of stress that we had, up potting it, slip potting it into this container, and then manipulating some branches and stuff. I don't want to put it straight in the sun and run the risk of it drying out or getting overly worked. I don't want it to work itself to death, but I do want it to have a really nice recovery. And the next time that I do any kind of work on this tree, I want to make sure there's nice elongation and there's nice strong growth before I touch this tree again. And then I'm going to keep an eye out for any kind of insects, any damage, any other things that might be going on with it. But this was awesome. So in the instance if this went back to my home and my personal collection, I would go ahead and make organic fertilizer bags and put them on there right now. Organic fertilizer right on the top of here. I would probably do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It sounds like a lot, but organic fertilizer will take the amount of time that it takes for this tree to kind of start recovering. We'll get to the roots. Synthetic fertilizer is going to cause a lot of elongation and growth. When this tree recovers and we're giving it synthetic fertilizer and we're getting robust, healthy growth and we start doing leaf reduction, if we really want to start keeping and maintaining leaf reduction and ramification, then that's when we need to switch over to organics. But yeah, I'm very happy with the design. Doug is apparently very happy with the design. That was Third Thursday Live. This was Nate Murray. I'm Evan Pardue at Underhill Bonsai in Folsom, Louisiana, and you guys have a great evening. Thank you guys so much for watching our video. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to keep up to date with our nursery. We are Louisiana's premier bonsai nursery, stocked with supplies, tools, pre-bonsai, and specimen bonsai. We were located on 10 beautiful acres just south of Folsom and a short drive from New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Pearl River, and Slidell.